still have an audience. Isn't that cool? Okay, look, this microphone works. Hey, greetings and salutations, everyone. You've tuned into Hot Flash Universe.
Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year. You're gonna have to get a little closer to the microphones. They're very sensitive.
Okay, so if I kiss it almost.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, you can kiss it, then the lipstick will be there forever. That's cool.
I know. It's this pigment stuff again.
And we are heard on UBN Go, and you can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, soon to be iHeartRadio, and if there's one more, I can't remember. Oh, Spleaker. And I'm your host, Walt Lusk, and we have, of course, Barbara Bishop in studio, and tonight we are going to the dogs.
Yes, we are.
And we have our dog expert, our Miss Canine Path is Suzanne McKay. And I'll let her introduce herself. And we're just going to talk a lot about dogs. And I'm a cat person, so we're going to.
We'll talk about cats
we're
too.
We're going to throw kitties in too as well.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So-
dogs, cats, elephants, whatever.
Pet alligators. No, I'm kidding.
Well, we're not in Florida,
Never know.
Yeah.
so go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Suzanne Mackay, and I've been with animals since I could walk. But I have a degree in animal science. I have a master's in business from USC. And what does the girl do when she leaves corporate America? She goes back to the dogs. Leave the dog eat dog world and go back to the dogs.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm a professional trainer. I work with all breeds, all shapes, all sizes, Yorkies to wolf hybrids, and I love it.
That's so
I
cool.
work with a lot of very behaviorally challenged dogs, dogs that are very anxious, a lot of separation anxiety, biters.
Biters.
Biters. That,
Biters,
yeah,
is that common?
Yes, biting is very
Really?
common. Biting is natural for dogs. It's just not always good in the situations that they do it.
I would imagine.
Work a lot with puppies, getting them started off on the right paw, and who doesn't love a cute puppy? But as we know, puppies can become, surviving puppyhood is all a story in itself. So
Yeah, we're gonna address that in the situation that we're talking about dog ownership over 50, and
Meaning people who are over 50 that own dogs, right?
or who want to
or
own a
want
dog.
to own a dog.
Okay, good.
And therefore, there are advantages to having a more seasoned dog versus a puppy.
Correct.
And I have experience in this, great experience. So, I mean, not as much as you, but
No, but an owner's perspective is
Owner's
what we go
perspective,
for
yep.
because when people say, "Oh, I want to be a dog trainer because I just get to work with dogs," well, it's like, "Oh, well, you have to like people too," because
Well, I don't. No, I'm kidding.
well, and there's a lot of people who are not good dog trainers or don't want to be one because they have to interact with people. But people and the dog, creating that bond, keeping that bond strong, finding ways to improve it. That's what we're all about.
Good. Excited
Well-
to hear.
What I thought I would start with is a little bit. Since I'm a numbers guy, it's statistics. It goes there are almost over 86 million cats in the United States, and 78 million dogs.
Wow.
But more people own more cats per household than dogs.
Really? I would think it would be the opposite.
Yeah. So with they're easier to take care of and smaller, which we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
So therefore, there are actually more households that have dogs, but there are more cats than dogs, and dogs need more personal care and attention than cats because obviously cats can bathe themselves.
You've
and be
never
home
met
on-
my cat.
Well, there's always exceptions to the rule,
Yes.
but if people are looking for a cat in general or a pet that's a little bit lower maintenance,
Right, because if you work to travel a lot, and dogs are sometimes dogs don't really like to be home all day by themselves.
no, they do not.
And in terms of a cost, cats typically are a little less expensive. One, because of food. It's about $670 per year, including food, litter, and medical. And dogs, the average, dogs are cheaper. It says about $580. Unless you have a bigger dog, then it's $875. So because dogs eat more, right? And have other issues.
That's hilarious. If you've ever fed a Newfoundland, a Saint Bernard, or a Great Dane,
I babysat years and years and years ago when I was a kid, and this family had 2 Saint Bernards.
They are so gorgeous.
And they cooked 30 turkeys a month.
yeah,
Wow.
I mean, you couldn't go down to the local Costco and buy a 3-pound bachelor chicken cost.
Yeah, but they're
turkey.
probably happy that
They're
there's a
chicken.
Costco around for them.
Yeah, yeah. And so, 30 chickens
Yeah.
a month. I mean, gee,
That's
Christmas.
wild.
Yeah, it's
They're
crazy.
beautiful though, except they kind of drool. I remember that I would
Yeah.
pet
Well,
one and they
but
kind of drool.
those are sort of the pros and cons we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Every breed has pros and cons.
Well,
you know?
that's true. And if the infamous word of there was a movie, I can't remember the name of it, with Sandy Field and Michael J. Fox, dogs drool and cats rule.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. Homeward Bound, I think it was.
Cute.
I tried to find the quote, but I
Adorable.
was sending it. I was
Right.
going to submit it, but I couldn't just find enough of it on YouTube. Popular breeds are Persians, Marine Coons, Tabbies, and Siamese, if you please.
All right.
Right.
Do you mean Maine Coons, honey?
Maine Coons.
See,
Yeah,
see?
Marine
See,
Coons.
I'm a cat. I'm a
Can you imagine?
Marine. Yeah,
And their
Maine
little-
Coons.
Maine
yeah.
Coons.
In their little marine outfits.
And dogs, by far,
Yes.
numero uno
Let's
is
see if Barb can guess it. Number one breed.
Number one breed, a poodle.
Not bad, but it is
Labs.
Labrador Retriever.
It's labs.
Oh yeah, that would
3
make sense.
times
Yeah.
I mean,
the
it's,
number.
it's huge.
Well, everything I see now is golden doodles. Like it's like the big,
Golden Doodles, English Creams, which are the Golden Retriever, which are the kind of whitish blonde.
Yeah,
which
I've seen those,
We can
too.
get into what happens when you start breeding for
yeah,
certain colors and the genetics can get off. But coming in at distant second, third, and fourth
Is
are
the-
German Shepherds, Yorkshires.
Yorkshire Terriers, German Shepherds, and Golden Retrievers.
How about Maltese?
No, they're in the list somewhere.
Right.
Health-wise, the average life expectancy of a cat is around 12 to 14 years. Of
Wow.
course, they can live longer.
Mine lived till 18.
Yeah. And some can live in the 20s. And dogs usually 7 to 14.
Right. And
again, it varies as well.
Something to mention is, and for reasons they don't fully understand, but small dogs tend to live longer. So
Yes, they do.
A small
Yeah.
Chihuahua, Maltese, some of the terriers, Yorkshires, these dogs can, easily live to be 12 to 15.
Good.
Many of them even longer. St. Bernards, Great Danes, what we call the giant breeds, they're considered a senior at 4.
Well, dog years.
But no, a senior at 4 in human
No,
years.
I know I'm teasing.
And they, they live to be in general about 6 to 8. I've seen several Great Danes live to be 10 or 12, but the size, it's sort of the inverse relationship. The bigger the dog in general, the shorter the lifespan. They don't really know why.
Oh, interesting. So there's no specific.
They think, and I'm going out on a limb here, they think that, the amount of energy it takes, food and literally building mass, bone, muscle to build a Great Dane
Yeah.
in a 2-year period
Yeah.
is extraordinary
I can imagine.
compared to
Yeah.
a Chihuahua, a Dachshund, a smaller breed, so that there's this enormous output of energy. And but again, they don't really have any
Interesting.
specific statistics, but that's what we know from all the empirical data.
Well, we can go through some of the myths of small dogs and big dogs if you want
Okay.
to dive into that one.
Well, and
do
then
it.
I can say true or false based
Okay.
on what I see.
Okay. And did you want to go for film for 40, or did you just want to phone in a friend, or?
Well, let's see. Let's see what happens. I may phone my friend here.
Okay.
So it was page 16. So small dogs, small myths, large are more lovable.
No frickin' way. I don't even have to phone a friend for that one.
They all correct. Not so fast. You're right.
My
Correct.
dog is the sweetest, kindest, and she does not bite
And
or
she's not a
bark.
very big dog.
She's not a very big dog at all.
Not a very big dog.
So here's a little stat for you. There's a big statistic that 50% of all reported bites, remember reported, are done usually either by pit bulls, pit mixes, Rottweilers, or Rottweiler mixes. That's a pretty well established.
That'd be a myth.
No, it's actually true.
Oh, it
There's
is
some
true?
truth in it,
Oh.
Yeah.
but the new data, I think it's from Animal Farm Network. I think that's the name of it. And
My
they-
favorite show.
yeah. Well, actually, it's a website. They do a lot of they do a lot of animal advocacy. They're
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
They came out, well, all trainers know, and they said, yeah, but we all really know that the small breeds, the Chihuahuas, Jack Russell Terriers, and Dachshunds,
I'd say dachshunds.
they actually bite more.
I'm sure they do.
They are the top biters.
Dachshunds, huh?
Well, so dachshunds, keep in mind,
They were bred for. You were telling me this
back
stuff.
in the day, and you can still find a standard dachshund is a 15 to 25 pound
It's a
dog.
big dog.
They
Bigger
bred them
dog.
down to be, 8, 10 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what they were designed to burrow after? Badgers.
I have to phone a friend.
Yep. Badgers are
Badgers.
incredible.
In
They are
England.
40, but they are 40-pound balls
Beasts.
of fury.
Beasts.
I bet,
They're
yeah,
reclusive. They want to be left alone. But if you challenge them,
They have teeth.
all hell breaks loose.
Absolutely.
So
That's
and
what dachshunds were bred for.
Dachshunds have no fear. So the fact that they come running for you,
Well, and you said it best, that they used to be a lot bigger, 15, 25 pounds, and they slammed it into a little one. It's like putting a V8 in a little tiny chassis.
it's a V8 and a Volkswagen.
Yes.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
But
that was a great
actually
analogy.
when we breed dogs to be very large.
Yeah.
Right. Very large, like Akitas used to be a lot
Yeah.
smaller, and now they're 120, 140 pounds.
Wow.
Dachshunds and Yorksies, 15 to 25 pounds.
Now they're
are now
like-
tiny.
Yeah.
6 pounds, 8 pounds. We see a lot of genetic aberrations. We see
I'm
a
sure.
lot of issues with temperament. We see a lot of issues with conformation. We see a lot of issues with disease. And so, because breeding needs to be done carefully, genetically selective, and
Yep.
just putting your friend's dog with someone else's dachshund and selling them on Craigslist is not helping that breed out.
No, definitely not.
How about bark? Small dog, big bark.
Meaning, who has a bigger bark? Who barks more?
and They all,
I would-
they
you know,
all,
just-
they all bark.
They all bark.
Because the canines bark because that's how they communicate.
Yes.
Small dogs don't need exercise.
Oh, that's totally wrong.
That's correct.
So
Bing, 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 bing,
another
bing.
good point is most small dogs, in fact, most dogs were bred for purpose. All
Yes.
right, your sheepdogs,
Yes.
herding breeds, guard dogs. So Chihuahuas, Jack Russell Terriers, Rat Terriers, Dachshunds. These were all designed to clear barnyards and plantations
mice.
of mice, rats, squirrels, everything in between. So we bring them inside. We give them nice, comfy beds, which they promptly destroy.
Right.
They terrorize.
Well, that was one of the things about in a home with dogs. You know what? You don't. Nothing is sacred. I mean, you've told me how many pairs of shoes have you lost?
Right. Well, no trainer is perfect, right? So I never had an issue with any dog chewing, but I got my third dog, Taru, who's a Korean Jindo, and he's great. I got him 2 days before I moved into my new place. How brilliant was that? So everything in my house is all in the wrong place.
It's fair game.
So he found all kinds of shoes, and the best shoes, the shoes I liked the most that smelled
Well,
like
of course
mommy,
he knows.
So, I had to learn that it was my fault. I put the stuff where he shouldn't, get to it, number one. Number two is I had to teach, take it, drop it, leave it, what he can have, what he can't have. So he chooses the chew toy or the Nylabone, not, mommy's, $300 brand new pair of dress shoes.
Well, my dog, and of course,
Zoe.
I'm sure that every mom would say this, but my dog is one of the best tempered dogs ever. This is the first dog I've ever had, but I've been exposed to
Right.
animals and dogs and cats. But she, now I'm definitely over 50. That's because I'm doing the show.
Why we have the show?
And I did want a companion.
Right.
And, I'm very attuned to the plight of rescues. And, I really wanted to get a rescue dog. And I know that there's issues with rescue dogs as well.
Getting a dog from a shelter, from a rescue group is an excellent idea. How did you go about looking?
Well, it's really weird because I like all kinds of dogs, but I knew that I'm short, so I knew that I couldn't handle a bigger dog, like you were
Okay.
saying. And where I live, I really didn't think a bigger dog would work
And
either.
some apartments or condos have weight restrictions, like
Interesting.
nothing, 40
That's
pounds or
interesting, yeah.
less, right?
Yeah, I've seen that. Now I know why. So I was online kind of looking, and there's there's rescue groups
Right.
on, and so, I
So
just,
you, just to interrupt a little bit, is there's a really big one called petfinder.com,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's 1-800-SAVE-A-PET or 1-800-ADOPT-A-PET.
And I found my last one on Adopt a Pet. Yeah.
There it is.
Aw.
And
Yeah, Adopt a Pet.
so you can look at the dogs by zip
Online.
code, right?
Yeah.
By zip
Yep.
code, and then start to see what's around you. That's one way to do it. The other
Yep.
way is to actually put in a size or an age
pictures and all.
requirement.
I don't remember how I did it, but I went to the certain breed rescues. So
Okay.
I went to Maltese Rescue, and there were so many, but they get scooped up right away because they're small and cute and all of
Right.
that. And then I finally found Zoe. That's my dog's name. And this little face, I went, okay, this is my dog. And so I knew where this dog was, and I literally went to the store. And I'm not swearing on radio or whatever, but it was called Barks and Bitches. I don't know if you've heard of those.
Yes, I have.
They're kind of funny. They're on
Yeah.
Fairfax. I don't know anyone. I mean, the whole world's listening. but
Hollywood.
in
No,
Hollywood,
that's good.
yes.
Give them a plug. They do
And
good work.
yeah, and they're awesome. Yeah, they really were. And so my nose was pressed up against the window before they opened, and we got Zoe. And the problem with Zoe, and I won't talk so much, but I mean, I think this is really interesting for people, wanting to adopt as well, is that she was really shut down. She would not look at me in the eye. She would not make a noise.
Right.
She had a bunch of bugs.
So
whatever.
rescue dogs, sheltered dogs come with baggage, and it depends. It really depends on
well,
genetics,
right.
environment, how soon they were weaned from mommy, how
Yeah.
many were in their litter.
I've got 8 good reasons why you should adopt an older dog. We'll go down that road now, too.
So my dog was 8 months.
Okay.
They
Under a
found
year.
her in the streets. She was white. She's white, and they found her. No one even knew she was white. That's how
They probably
dirty
thought she was a
was.
little brown dog.
Yes.
Oh, wow, my goodness.
And she had a habit of sort of disappearing with a bunch of other dogs. So no one could see her.
Right.
And so when the Maltese Rescue came along, they had to. They visited the place. This was the Downey shelter, which is
Right.
not a very good one, and found her like the third time.
Wow, she was hiding.
The thing about shelters, and keep in mind, is that they're tough places to go. They're even
Yeah.
tougher if you're a dog in there. The
Yeah.
people who work there are doing the best they can, but
Of
remember,
course.
dogs are dumped in shelters at a staggering
It's-
level,
the
and I
numbers
can't
are
even tell
huge.
you the number of
it's huge.
Facebook threads that I'm on where I know these amazing women from Dream Fetchers who go out through the San Bernardino hills and just scoop up dogs that are
Yeah.
tossed out into the wild.
And they
Like,
do that. There's so many.
Daily.
It's so
you know,
sad.
So, so they went down to the shelter. You went to the rescue group. So
Yep.
they had already done a little bit of evaluation on her, which is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
They knew she was shy and reserved, which, by the way, people, when you are seeing a shelter dog or a rescue dog, what you see is not necessarily the dog that it will be when you take
Absolutely.
it home. They may
Absolutely.
be shut down. They may be really exuberant. They get into your house or your environment. And we generally see often a very different dog, a dog that comes out of a shell,
Yeah.
or a dog that was super wild, kind of calms down.
Well, and what she did was, she was so shut down. She wouldn't look at anyone. She wouldn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, she started making these little noises. And then she started kind of looking at me and, looking away. And, little by little.
Right.
Now she's the most amazing, loving dog to everyone, not just me.
Right.
Everyone.
But you were patient with her.
Yes.
You gave her a chance. What we call this is it's very normal for dogs to come home out of a shelter environment and just sleep. They'll sleep for several
Yeah.
days to a week because
Yeah.
they're decompressing.
Yeah.
Imagine that you're basically
And it's quiet.
Well, imagine that you're at a concert and you're sitting next to all these people, and then all of a sudden you go home. That you've been,
and it's quiet.
and it's quiet.
yeah.
And so you brought her home, and
And-
how old is she now?
She's now going to be
6, you said?
6, yeah.
And I'm really bummed you did not bring her. I know it wasn't
She's so
feasible.
cute. You'll meet her.
I know, but I was bummed because I wanted to have a Zoe here to show off how cute she is. But as we all know, dogs are a responsibility. You took on a dog that you felt that the size was right,
Yep.
the age was correct.
Yep.
that you had time for.
Yes.
That you felt your place was, the right size for her energy level and you.
Yes. I mean, we really have this super close relationship, which is why I think, women, men, whoever over 50 are missing something if they don't have a pet. I mean, I really
totally agree.
think so.
So let's address the advantages of adopting an older dog versus a puppy. First, of course,
Yeah.
is you know what you're getting, especially how big they are. Because if you have a mix, as
Right,
we've chatted, you never know what they're going to turn out to be when they get older.
Mine was 7 pounds, and she doubled in weight.
Right, which would be about right.
Right,
at that age,
exactly,
and here, and here's the scoop. When we say, so we break it down to, I consider puppies to be anything 6 months or less. And then 6 months to about 3 years is really an adolescent. And then 3 years and above is an adult. Dogs are really mature at 4-ish. Of course, by that time, your large breeds or extra large breeds are considered to be almost seniors. But then we get into, the more senior dogs. But, you can go out and get a small dog, a Chihuahua, that's 7 years old, and that dog is middle-aged.
Yep.
So you have to, know the breed that you're getting. And I would, if you're looking at a particular breed or mix, talk to people that have owned that breed. Like people go out and they get a German Shepherd, and then they're so surprised that this German Shepherd is acting very sort of guardy and protective when new people come in the house and doesn't like all their friends. And it's like, yeah, what part of a naturally wary around strangers description do you not understand? They're
Right.
livestock guardians. They're not meant to be. I'm not saying that they should.
Cuddle bugs.
Well, some shepherds are very, very friendly, but they tend to be more aloof.
Yeah.
And of course, someone's going to call and say, "I have the best shepherd." It's like, I'm not making a judgment here.
Broad
I
generalities.
love that. I love shepherds. I'm just saying that not every Labrador wants to retrieve a ball or is really good with children. Mm-hmm. I've seen some that don't want either, and then I've seen dogs that you would think that are going to be, very protective and guardy like a shepherd, and they're the most easygoing dog yet. But, back to what you were saying is you got a dog that was right for you, for your lifestyle, and
And it totally worked out. I mean,
right. And she's going to be with you for a
there
long
go,
time.
A long time. Second benefit of adopting an old dog is you can skip house training. They know how to.
Most of the time.
Most of the time,
So,
okay.
if the dog was an outdoor dog, then they're going to have to be housebroken.
Yeah, but nonetheless,
I
it's
run
still easier.
into, so one of the things is when I help out at adoptions and things like that, I run into people who say, yeah, when I retire, I'm going to get a puppy. And then I'll look at the people and, no offense to anybody, but they're in their 60s or 70s
Well,
or
exactly.
whatever.
You have
And
to
I say,
think about
and I
that.
say, how good are your knees and how good are your back? They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, so you're going to be on the ground telling that puppy, stay away from that, stop chewing that, leave that alone. Why did you piddle over there? And you're going to be, because housebreaking requires that you are taking that puppy out every 2 to 3 hours
Yep.
for the first several months and keeping it confined and supervising it and, deciding, where that puppy needs to pedal and not giving them enough freedom. People, number one thing we correct in homes when we go in for training is, the dog is piddling all over the house. I'm like, why does the dog have access to all over the house? It's like, sending your 4-year-old in with a Sharpie and, wondering why there's ink all over the walls. So,
well, the other thing I think when it comes to seniors is, so let's say you're 65 and you adopt a dog that lives to be 20 or 16 and you
Right.
die before the dog. I mean,
That
And there's a
happens.
lot of, I've seen the instances where people
So-
have died before their dogs.
right. So there's a couple of things. One, we all know health, no matter what your age, can change on a dime.
Yeah.
But a lot of rescues won't even adopt to somebody who's over a certain age because they know the likelihood of the dog outliving the person is high.
Yeah.
So what I recommend to people is this. I recommend that if you get a dog, even if you're 80 years old, doesn't matter. I really don't care how old you are. Again, it gets down to what is your lifestyle. Some 80-year-olds are very active. Their dog keeps them active. They walk. They're in better physical condition. What we do is we start with a dog that is maybe 4 or 5 or even 8. The second thing is have a family or friend that you trust and have a will that
Yeah.
includes
Care
your
of
dog.
care
I
of
have
the
been
pet.
guardians, I still am, guardians for certain dogs. Should something happen to the owner, we know that that pet or those pets will be well taken care of, and you leave money set aside in a trust. And I mean, for example, people who own birds, parrots easily live to be 50 years
Plus.
old, if not older.
And I don't think that people even know that.
No, they don't. So
when I was I grew up in the Hollywood Hills, and there was a flock of parrots, and you could hear them a mile away because everybody goes, "Holy cow! I can't I can't take care of this thing." And of course, they find each other, and it
Right.
was a flock of parrots. They were as noisy as you could imagine. I mean, everywhere, and their droppings were highly entertaining. So,
Right.
most of them were red, and had this big.
Right.
I mean, these birds weren't very small, and it was
Yeah.
this big, all these red birds. There was like 6 of them,
Right.
And they were having a party every day.
Right. Well, the other thing to keep in mind is I just saw something. She died a year or two ago. Darwin's Galapagos tortoise lived
Yeah,
to
they-
be
oh, yeah. Well, yeah, they look-
175
Oh, my
years
goodness
Wow.
old.
I mean, then what do you do then?
Well, she obviously was at a sanctuary /
Yes,
zoo.
yes.
But my point is, I have friends of mine who are like, yeah, I have the tortoises that I grew up with. She's my age, 50 in her 50s. So, these tortoises she has are 40 years old, and they're crawling around with her kids now.
So
but
funny.
the point is that, if you do, if your pet outlives you, you need to have a plan. They need to be part of your will, and make no mistake that, the people just you think are going to take care of it so many times dump the dog in the shelter, and
Yep.
it's really tragic. And it's very hard to get dogs adopted out of shelters, let alone ones that are 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Or whatever. So, do a little planning. And we also talked about, which maybe is coming later in the show, is if you don't feel that having a dog or a cat is right for you at this particular time, walk a friend's dog, volunteer at a shelter.
Try it out a little bit.
I did
know,
that
You did.
to begin with, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's a good way to kind of get your feet wet and do I really want to take care of this furry thing every day? I don't hold it against them, but some people are not animal people, or they have a lot of allergies or whatever. So, there's other ways to give back to the animal community. I mean, you can donate beds, blanket, food. They can always use those at shelters and rescue groups. You can send them Amazon cards. You can just write a check. You can just pay for their vet bills. They would love, but I mean,
or house sit. I
well,
mean, if you really want to do that,
I
a
know
little
people
bit.
who love house sitting.
I would love to do that.
They
Bring my Zoe over there. We'll have a
I
party.
have a friend of mine. She's a vice principal. Her dog died several years ago, and she says, "Yeah, but I have several pets that come stay with me,
Oh.
during the summer, and they all go over to Auntie Lynn's, and she loves
That's great. Yeah.
Another advantage is fewer vet bills because they obviously, they're got all their shots and stuff. They are not teething, so you're not dealing with that. They're calmer because again,
So
they're
are
a
we
little more
advocating
seasoned.
older pets?
Well, I'm just giving you the
Right.
pros.
Well,
the
I
pros.
I mean, but let's talk about that.
Well, so here's the scoop. So yes, in the beginning, maybe a little bit lower vet bills, because the spay and neuter is usually done. But let's talk a little bit about the reality is
they get older. They have
they
issues.
get older, because a vet said to me, he goes, "Look, Suzanne, by the time you get rid of the accidents, when people didn't fence in their, you get rid of farm accidents, car accidents, you get rid of parvo and distemper. Those diseases show up, but a lot less because of the vaccines.
Right.
What do dogs die from? They die from heart disease, cancer,
diabetes.
organ failure, all the things that humans
Yeah.
die from, which dovetails a little bit into pet insurance.
Right, and we
which
should
is
we
a-
should probably while we're diving into that, you are a huge advocate, and if you write us at info@hotflashuniverse.net, I've got a whole page of about 30 pages of notes, and in the end of it is about 10 companies that are pet
Right.
insurance.
So on pet insurance, which I think is a tremendously good idea.
Yes, and it's growing.
And in the sense that my sister, who is a specialist veterinarian, Dr. Marcella Harb, She practices up in San Rafael. I have to give her a shout out. She's my sister, and she's a rock star. But she has a golden retriever, and she has pet insurance. She goes, I have $1,000 deductible.
She's a vet, and
She's a vet, and
Just catch that, folks. She's a
Right.
veterinarian, and she has pet
Right.
insurance.
Oh, I think
Because-
then obviously it's
right. But she said to me,
it.
Suzanne, you know, she goes, I mean, she can obviously take care of her pet at a higher level than all of us. But she said, you know, Suzanne, I see what, you know, cancer treatments cost and, you know, medications cost for some of these, you know, very serious illnesses, you know.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is look at your insurance policies because they, you know, you can pick, you know, what level of benefits and you need to read that. Some are $5,000 a year that costs one monthly cost. Some are $10,000.
Wow.
Some are up to $30,000, and also whether they have an unlimited lifetime benefit. So, like right now, I'm actually evaluating several pet insurances because I'm looking for a new carrier, and I am, you know, and one of the things you can also look into is paying for wellness or routine care and things like that, which I'm probably not going to, but you know. It's going to cost you anywhere from, you know, $20 to $100 a month. But if you do the math, let's say it's,
come on! Don't you want their manicures covered?
well, but let's say it costs you $50 a month. Just, you know,
Yeah.
let's do the math. So it's $600 a year. Your dog lives 10 years, right?
$6,000.
Okay, so 12 years, $7,200. Do you really think that if you're reimbursed at, you again, 80% or 90%, but you really think within a 10 or 12-year period, you're not going to rack up some large vet bill?
Yeah.
And my answer is to you most likely. And
well, it's like humans as
Right.
well. I mean, it's the same thing.
right. So people say, well, I'm just going to put it in a savings account and do this and that. Okay, fine. But your dog can all of a sudden hit 8 years old and have a plethora of illnesses and diseases that are racking up 5-10K every single year.
So when you're a senior, you know, over 50, over 60, if you're retired, you have to also
You might be
really
on a fixed income.
look into
But
that.
the other thing is, I think that the cost benefit analysis, I think the benefit outweighs the cost of it. And again, I think you just have to, you know, go to our website, look at the list of companies, look at the reviews, and you know, they usually have a very short waiting period to qualify your dog. And you know, every breed is different. I mean, there's breed differences, there's age differences. Obviously, the cost to insure my 9-year-old dog is going to cost different than you know, my 4-year-old dog. What I'm trying to figure out right now is, do the premiums go up as the dog ages?
Well, and that
I
was
haven't.
yeah.
And do
that
you
was a
get,
question
I
for
assume
me.
you don't get a group discount.
Actually, you do. You do. You usually get about a 5 or 10%.
Oh, that's cool.
Some give you, if your dog is a therapy dog or a spayed and neutered, they'll give you a little bit of a discount. But I think, especially when you are getting some of these purebred dogs, you know, some
Yeah.
of these purebred dogs have some tremendous
Issues.
well, yeah. I mean, I love Bernese Mountain Dogs, but they
Yeah.
have this type of anemia that's very prolific and very devastating.
And most people don't know. They think, oh, if it's purebred, they're healthier. And
Yeah, or they think if they're a hybrid or a mix, they're healthier. And the reality is,
yeah,
there are certain diseases that are specific to certain breeds, but the reality is we see hip dysplasia in small dogs.
Yep.
You know, the point is not that your shepherd's going to get dysplasia. The point is, do they get dysplasia at 2 or do they get it at 9? And how bad is the hip dysplasia? I mean, I don't want any dog to get it, but the point is, when did these diseases start cropping up? And again, poor genetics, poor breeding,
yeah.
you know, just sometimes luck of the draw.
Well, and you know, those are things that people over 50 have to think about before
Right.
they have a dog.
Take the plunge.
Right.
But you know what? All of this aside, there's so much that you can get from having an animal. You know,
Well, I'm going to touch on the health benefits in a minute.
Yeah.
But getting back to our big dog, small dogs. So the why small dogs? They're more popular. They can cost less. They're cheaper travel dates because you can fit them in your car and you don't have to
That's
slam
true.
them in this big, gigantic carrier, right?
Right.
I mean, when was the last time I tried to squeeze an Irish wolfhound into a pet carrier?
I don't think so.
Well, yeah. So it is easier to move them around with you, no doubt about it.
They're a little easier lap dogs, and they are better for city dwellers.
I would not agree with that.
I mean, that says
one.
here, smaller size means better fit for urban life where apartment size is limited.
Well, here's what I would say. A Jack Russell Terrier inside your apartment, you're going to be lucky in most cases if you have any drywall left, either from bouncing the ball
They're
off the wall.
little. They're little
tigers,
terrors.
Well, terrier actually is derived from terra, as in terra firma.
As in terror.
Or
in terror.
terrorists. We call them Jack Russell terrorists, which I've trained many, and I
That's
love the breed.
terrorist.
But the thing about it is, people don't realize, but a large breed, like a Great Dane, actually greyhounds are also one of them, but
So beautiful.
mastiffs, Great Danes, a lot of these dogs, once they make it through puppyhood, they're very good apartment dogs. They need a 30-minute walk every day. They are pretty chill. They have a lot of weight to move around, but and they don't need this huge yard compared to the Jack Russell that wants to,
That's interesting. Yeah, you just have to know the breed.
You have to know the breed. You need to know your lifestyle and what's going to work for you in your environment. But in terms of fitting into a smaller space, Walt is very correct in that, some of these smaller dogs are a good fit.
Let's see. We've done most of this stuff, so let's do some health benefits. Because
Yeah,
there's
I mean,
a lot
my
of benefits
dog
health-wise to
really
own a
saved
dog.
my life. I mean, I had. Am I going to tell the whole world about this? I guess so.
Well, we talk
I
about
had
depression.
chronic depression.
Yeah, depression is a huge one.
And felt not, and it wasn't just I was lonely for a day. I was chronically depressed. Got the dog, and it really helps.
Because you've got somebody now you're responsible for.
Right. You get
so
up
now
in
you
the
gotta
morning,
walk them,
they
you gotta
love
feed
you.
them, they love you, etc.
Well, you get up, you start walking. So physical
Yes.
activity
Yes.
is huge.
Yes,
They
it
know
is.
from doing tests that your blood pressure is lower, like when you come home and greet the dog.
That's
Yep.
true too. And the average person loses 14 and a half pounds by having a dog.
Rock star.
Because
When's
they
that gonna
have
happen to
go
me?
out for walks.
We've also seen moving into, there's the emotional side
Yeah.
of
Yes.
depression, and
Yep.
some of these dogs help with some of the diabetic dogs that work with people who are diabetic. We found in many cases they can sense the person's blood sugar changing faster than the test.
Yes, they sure can.
Wow.
And they can
That's-
sense
I did
cancer
not
as
know
well.
that.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of 'em.
They have at universities.
If they're pointing to like a specific place on your body,
Right.
and they do it a lot, chances are, odds are,
Wow.
you might want to go have that spot checked
Right.
because there might be an issue with that spot or that organ or
And
something else.
they even do, the cancer studies where they
Mm-hmm.
put the urine or the whatever that's got the cancer cells
Cells in it.
and then they have the dog, that knows, and they've even done where none of them have it, and the dog knows that none of them have it, and it's really interesting to watch.
Fascinating.
Well, was it you that told me there was a hospital that they had a dog, and the dog would go visit the next patient that was going to be checking out of the hospital? In other words, they were going to die.
There was a cat.
Was
that
it- was
did
a
that.
cat?
The
Okay, it
cat.
was a cat.
There was a cat at this, group
Nursing home?
Wow.
Yeah.
And the cat was not particularly, he wasn't unfriendly. He just was kind of a cat that just kind of hung out. But if he laid on your bed, it was your number was up.
Your turn.
oh my gosh.
It was
Yeah.
very, and I mean, the nursing staff was just like amazed. But,
Yeah.
Yes.
but the thing is, they
Wow.
know from the smell, that's how cadaver dogs find cadavers, is the smell.
Is the
That's
smell.
how they find search and rescue dogs. That's how they find bomb detection. They possess this, and then we hone it in and we refine it.
What if they lick your feet?
Well, I think they just like the salt, but one of the things that we can also dovetail into is people who suffer from PTSD.
Right.
We-
And actually,
Yeah.
funny you should mention that. We're jumping around. Pets for Vets.
Pets
a
for Vets.
lot of vets have PTSD.
Right.
And I've got some information if you want to write us at info
Right.
at hotflashuniverse.net. Helping vets one lick at a time.
Right. So I actually
encourage. Social connections, mental well-being, emotional health, physical fitness, loneliness, improve relationships, overcome trauma, boost confidence, raise self-esteem, and gain a new perspective.
Right.
Those are all the benefits for having a pet from a
So-
PTSD.
And learn photography.
Yeah, but also
And learn photography.
yeah. You know, I had a client who his grandkids were crying because he had more pictures of his dog on his iPhone than his grandkids. But in all fairness, I did some work a few years ago. Clarissa Black, who, you know, a young lady, probably not even 30 when she started the organization, excellent animal trainer, started Pets for Vets. They have several chapters.
That's
And
amazing.
these dogs are provided to the veterans at no cost. There's also one called Next Step. They're out of San Diego. Sally, I've met her several times, and she's great. And their dogs actually come from dogs that don't meet the criteria for guide dogs or the blind, which have the strictest of strict, but they still make very good companion dogs. And then another one is Tadsaw, Train a Dog, Stable Warrior. And I met Mr. Sherwood a few years ago at the big dog trainers conference, the APDT, one of the big dog trainers conference. And he was a Vietnam veteran, and he said, and he's a pharmacist, but he said, Suzanne, what I can't handle is 22 to 23 veterans every day committing suicide. That's how much pain they are in.
That is very true. The average,
Yeah.
there's over 20, it's correct, 22 vets a day across the country are committing suicide.
Yeah.
A day. That's conservatively.
So we can get more information on these organizations, but PTSD just does not extend to vets. It
No.
extends
No. It's for everybody, but
It's-
a lot of vets have them.
Right. They do.
And that was the focus from
But
Pets for Vets, but there's advantages obviously for anybody in that
I just wanted to
situation.
mention, PTSD, might happen, the loss of a loved one,
Can happen in
the
anybody
loss of a
anytime.
child.
I was diagnosed with that.
Right, a survivor of an assault or
Yeah.
a horrific crime. People who've lived through wars, who have been in war-torn, ravaged
Sure,
areas.
absolutely.
Police officers and any number of first responders,
Yeah.
go through these, they see a lot of things that are somewhat, very difficult to talk about.
Yeah.
And when you have an animal that's just next to you that is just warm and cuddly and loves you unconditionally and gets you up, gets you out, gets you moving, you have to be responsible for it.
Yep.
It really does change your perspective.
And just walking will help depression. So, you have to walk a dog.
And walking is the new elixir.
Yep.
It's the new, it adds a lot to longevity. So,
And everything else.
yeah,
You're
and like I
outside,
said, if
you're in
you
the sun-
can't walk
you're
your
on the-
dog, walk
Yep.
a friend's, walk a neighbor's, walk some shelter or
Yep.
volunteer programs, because lots of dogs out there need more walks.
And so do people over 50.
Oh, yes.
So we've done a lot of the benefits for health. Real quick to summarize: more physical activity, less stress, lower blood pressure, because a study of stockbrokers found that having a cat or a dog helped lower their spikes in their blood pressure.
Right.
Lower heart attacks. This article is more for pets, but they said that cat owners, your little fur ball can be fighting off heart disease for it. Studies found that people with cats were 40% less likely to have a fatal heart attack. They may be dogs as well, but the study was specifically for cats.
Well, and cats
Interesting.
I love too. I mean,
I have several.
Alleviation of depression, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
Allergy prevention. A 7-year study of
interesting.
500 children found that children who were exposed to cats and dogs as babies were half as likely to have allergies
sense.
and risk
Right.
factors for asthma as they grow up.
yeah.
Nice.
Low blood sugar detection. We've talked about that. They can smell it. Dangerous as a drop of blood of sugar can be. They can smell the change before humans can, and less risk of stroke. Owning cats cut off a person's risk of having a stroke by 30%. Again, because of lower
Now that's
stress.
that's a big statistic.
That's huge. Yeah. Benefits for dogs, we've talked about. Let's see. Again, you lose weight. This one said, you're walking 10, 20, 30 minutes a day.
Yep.
You can't help but lose weight. And the average was 14.5 pounds. It adds more meaning and purpose. As we grow older, especially after we retire, it can be difficult to find structure and meaning in our day. Dogs can take care of that. They force people to continue to, quote, do things. They help prevent loneliness, isolation, shaving off cognitive discipline and disease. And, you're forced to take care of the dog, your best friend.
She is my best friend, my dog.
And it reduces doctor's visits. If you're over 65 and own a pet, odds are you seek medical health 30% less than people who do not have a pet.
Love that.
Owner dogs in particular were buffed from the impact of a stressful life on physical urbanization, less disease. They talk about that. One thing that dogs are not good for is falls. More people
Right.
fall from having a dog than having a cat. I had a good friend of mine. They tripped over there. It was a big dog. Slammed their head against the counter, and they got a big concussion.
That does happen, and I have been called in. A wonderful woman adopted a golden retriever, got her as a puppy. The dog was like a Harrier jet. She would just launch straight off the ground. And this was a really, really strong dog, had literally pulled this gal down, broken her ribs, broken her wrist.
my gosh.
Yeah. And it was not pretty. And and then on top of it, about a year later, she tripped over the dog down some steps, and it was not the dog's fault. The dog responded really well to training. The owner was totally all in for it. The dog has a great temperament, but it was a wild child, and so literally we used to call the dog Murphy's Law. But
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law.
But, slips and falls happen. And part of it is also, but we set boundaries. Part of it is I don't have my dogs underfoot. Some people let their dogs underfoot. It's fine. Small dogs, there's a risk of injury of stepping on them. Big dogs, there's just a risk of, face planting yourself. But it's also, that's where the training comes into, teaching your dogs to settle nicely, to not jump on people. Oh, he's giving me a hug. So we put it on cue. There was an orthopedist that was a client of mine many years ago. He's like, I see at least two women a month. They all have broken clavicles.
Are these older women or?
Yeah, 30s, 40s, 50s. He says, I see about two women a month with a broken shoulder blade because the dog knocked them down.
Shoulder blade, not collar.
Ow.
Collarbone, sorry.
Collarbone.
Sorry, my bad.
Ow.
Clavicle.
Yeah.
Collarbone.
Collarbone's going to easily
But
broken.
it also strengthens you. Just looking at the
sure.
at the positive side. I mean, I did not want to go outside. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to walk. I didn't want to do anything until.
Well, here's a
little
couple
Zoe
more
came
benefits,
along.
and we only have just a few more minutes. You can find more out about your personality. The kind of dog you have says a lot about your personality. A study in England found out very clear correlation between people's personalities and what type of dog they owned. People who owned
makes
toy
sense.
dogs tended to be more intelligent, while owners of utility dogs, like Dalmatians and Bulldogs, were more conscientious. Other studies found that dog owners are generally more outgoing and friendly than cat owners. Although it did say that cat owners are smarter than dog owners.
Well,
that's
the age-old
debatable, yeah.
battle.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
here's what I will tell you is that I went out to Meetup, and they have
Meetup.
some great dog activities. I was really inspired.
Yeah.
There, you can take your dog on a guided hike with a
Sure.
trainer.
That's cool.
They have
to look
some
into that.
dog meetups. Social play groups, things like that.
So you don't just have to be by yourself.
No.
and
Oh
your
no,
dog.
I mean,
absolutely not.
there's the dog
Find
park.
like-minded people.
Yeah, that's great.
You can
And
you know,
dogs.
go to different dog parks, which you need a friendly dog or you need a trainer to help you. And then again, that's one of the things we do is we help socialize. And I help
Yep.
people either if they have very aggressive dogs, we teach them just to walk, to not engage with other dogs. We work with them that way, and I owned a doggy daycare for 12 years, so I oversaw 40 to 80 dogs every day.
Wow.
So many
You
dogs.
went to the dog.
So I saw every behavior, shape, size, temperament you can imagine, and it's really important to keep up the socialization of a dog, and it's
Yeah.
also it's good for you.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
absolutely.
one of the advantages, a couple more, your kids will become more empathetic. We already talked about being more healthy, right?
Right.
A 2003 study, and there was another one in 2017, 1,007 to 12-year-olds found that pet attachment of any kind encouraged compassion and positive attitudes
Yeah.
towards animals, which promoted better well-being for both child and pet.
And I've seen programs where you have
It's
kids that
read to the
that-
dogs. So there's a really
Yeah.
great local program. Josie runs it. It's called, I believe, Bark. And basically, and I have a client. We trained her dog to be part of it, and a kid is paired with that dog, and they read to the dog. And I've seen these kids interviewed, and
The
but you know,
dog's nodding as they're reading.
well, well, but you have to understand these kids are struggling with the English language for whatever reason. It may be their first language, but they're dyslexic. They stutter. They feel very self-conscious. They might be autistic. There could be any number of learning handicaps that we have. So when they're with the dog's getting attention. The dog loves it, and there's some shelters that do it too because the interaction with the child is valuable to the animal that's there as well. But they feel that they're not judged. They get to practice, and these programs have been, for the most part, hugely successful.
Yeah.
And again, having a pet in general teaches your kids empathy, how to be responsible.
And it's so important with these kids.
Oh, responsible. Feed the dog.
But
clean up after the dog.
parents, let me have a little reminder for you. Yeah, you can say, oh, I got the dog for their birthday, or I got the dog for the kids. And it's like, yeah. And you're the parent, you're the adult, which means you oversee the feeding,
be the example.
picking up the poop, making sure the dog gets out on a walk. I mean, some kids are, inherently responsible with that, but like everything, they have very short attention spans. They're busy with school and their friends. So keep in mind that if it's a family pet, you, the parents, are usually the most responsible, or you should be the most responsible of all.
It happened in my house. I have a younger sister, and she wanted a dog in the worst way. Poured through the AKC book. We picked a Westie Terrier, fabulous dog. She was about probably 13 or so. After about 6 weeks, been there, done that.
Aww.
So over it.
But
my father actually adopted the dog, which was really surprising because he was a physician. He was very busy, and he trained the dog, and it worked out swimmingly. And in fact, when the training, they taught hand signals. And later in life, the dog became deaf, and the hand signals became really, really helpful. So,
well,
awesome.
you even said that was, whatever, back in the day in the 70s, West Highland Whites, they couldn't, win any obedience. And
my father
the floor.
my father wanted to train the dog, and everybody goes, Westies are too smart. You can't train them.
Bull.
And he says, well, I'm up for the challenge.
Your father was also like a head physician at Kaiser, so quite a bright man.
Yeah, so
And,
he picked a bright dog. My sister picked a bright dog, and it worked out great. It was fun. I mean, they went backpacking together. My mother, the dog, and my dad. And
were they over 50?
Yes, they were. Well, when they acquired the dog, no, but later in life they were. I mean, the dog was
So the
rare for
dog
about
was with
15,
them.
17 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He was up all night checking out all the sounds, but it was fun. It worked out great.
Yeah.
Two more things, and we've got to scoot because we're out of time. First, you will feel safer having a dog for many obvious reasons. Okay, home security system, and lastly, one of the advantages of having a dog is you will grow old gracefully.
So I actually have two things to say on that.
Okay, well, you have the final word. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
the final word, which is they know for a fact, not in all cases, because, I guess burglars can come with treats, but in general, someone who means you ill will think twice if you have a dog, and certainly maybe go to the next house that doesn't have a dog.
Sure.
But I was told by a security expert that no security system, no matter how big, how massive, how expensive, is never fully complete unless you have a dog. That was a quote from him.
Yeah.
Number two is I refuse to not grow old gracefully. I'm going to fight it kicking and screaming.
I mean, I may be
every
growing older,
step
but I
of the
refuse
way.
to grow up.
No, it's like I may become more vintage and get a little more patina on me, but I refuse to
Yes,
grow.
I-
Well,
I
if
remember getting
you
older,
saw
and I
pictures of
refused to
me
go.
from 5 years ago until now, I look younger now than I was 5 years ago.
Awesome. Which means you're a rock star.
My dog is a rock
Yeah.
star.
Awesome.
And that, folks, is all the time we have for our show. This has been Hot Flash Universe.
Woof woof.
I'm your host, Walt Lusk, with Barbara Bishop,
Woof.
and the big dog here, and our resident dog, Canine, Miss Canine Path.
Thank you so much, Suzanne.
Suzanne
You're
McKay.
welcome.
Where can they find you?
www.caninepath.com. We have a website that we just launched. We're really happy and proud of it. You can also email us at K, as in kangaroo, 9,
The number 9.
PATH, at gmail.com. So caninepath@gmail.com.
Cool.
But go out on the website, send us an email, give us a call. We're, pretty much all problems, all situations, we are happy to help.
And
So much information you have too.
And
Thank
we've
you
got
so
a lot
much.
more information, so you can write us if you have a suggestion for a show or a question, or want show notes at info@hotflashuniverse.net. And you can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, Spreaker, and soon to be iHeartRadio. And of course, please like, subscribe, and share us on YouTube.
Yes.
And so with that, we're going to close
Awesome.
out. And so until next time, God bless everyone, and we're out.
Cheers.